Across the German automotive industry as a whole, not one company, the confirmed and proposed job cuts announced since 2024 have now passed 170,000. That figure sits across Volkswagen, BMW, Porsche, Audi and Mercedes, and beneath every one of those household names, across the supplier networks that actually engineer the parts inside a German car, Bosch, ZF Friedrichshafen, Continental, Schaeffler. This isn't one company's crisis anymore, and treating it as one, the way that most coverage still does, badly understates what's actually happening. It's the industry that employs nearly 780,000 people directly, generates over 564 billion euros in annual sales, and single-handedly accounts for close to a quarter of everything Germany exports to the rest of the world. And it's contracting in real time, in front of everyone, while still selling cars off its own forecourts as though nothing has changed. When we covered the Volkswagen Group collapse a few weeks back, we said the story was bigger than one badge, bigger than one boardroom software delays or one CEO's mismanagement. This is the proof, laid out across the 5 brands and 4 supplier giants that between them hold most of the patents behind a modern German car. Subscribe if you want the rest of it before the headlines catch up to what's actually happening underneath the brand names. Start with the scale. Most coverage still gets wrong by treating it as a Volkswagen story with a few other brands mentioned in passing rather than a genuinely sector-wide event. Volkswagen itself has escalated fast. A previously agreed 50,000 job reduction has doubled to a proposed 100,000 in July 2026 alone, roughly 15% of its entire 657,400 strong global workforce. Announced in a single move with no precedent anywhere in the company's 89-year operating history, Chief Executive Oliver Blume has proposed closing 4 domestic plants outright: the commercial vehicle hub in Hanover, the EV plant in Zwickau, the coastal Emden site, and Audi's historic home in Neckarsulm, putting more than 45,000 domestic roles at immediate risk, and tearing up a December 2024 agreement with IG Metall that explicitly guaranteed no forced redundancies or plant closures before 2030. That agreement wasn't a minor internal memo, it was a formal pillar of the post-war German social contract between capital and labor, and Volkswagen broke it inside 18 months. BMW is cutting 8,000 roles by 2027 in total, mostly non-production staff taking voluntary buyouts as it absorbs the cost of its new Neue-Klasse EV platform into a market with thinning margins and weakened Chinese demand across the board. Porsche, long treated as the one part of the group immune to any of this thanks to its profit margins, is eliminating 9,000 positions by 2035, a fifth of its entire workforce, after new leadership pointed directly at the collapse of its EV strategy in China as the cause. Audi has already closed its Brussels plant outright, making 3,000 workers redundant after a €600 million investment to build a 120,000-unit carbon-neutral EV flagship factory that never once produced more than 47,900 units in a single year, less than 40% of its own rated capacity, building a Q8 e-tron nobody wanted enough to buy in sufficient numbers to justify keeping the lights on, discontinued outright rather than relocated elsewhere in the group. Mercedes-Benz has held its German production jobs comparatively safer than the rest of the group, protected until 2034 under its own Works Council deal, but it's cutting 10 to 15% of its sales, finance and legal staff in China specifically, chasing a 25% regional cost reduction by 2027 after its 2025 EBIT collapsed 57% to €5.8 billion in a single year. None of that is where the real damage sits, though, and this is the part almost nobody covering the VW headline has actually followed through to. The supplier networks underneath these brands, the companies that hold the patents and actually build the complex mechanical components inside every German car, rather than simply assembling and badging the finished product, are being hit harder than the manufacturers they supply, and the mechanism is worth understanding rather than just the headline number. As OEMs hedge between combustion and electric platforms simultaneously rather than committing fully to either, they split their orders across 2 parallel production lines instead of consolidating onto one, which means total demand for cars stays roughly static while actual production volume for any single component effectively halves. That destroys the economies of scale a supply depends on to keep already thin margins viable at all, leaving them carrying excess capacity, stranded engineering assets built for a technology now being phased out, and returns on investment that keep falling regardless of how hard they cut costs elsewhere. It's why the supplier collapse is more structural and more permanent than anything happening at boardroom level in Wolfsburg or Munich, where at least the badge on the building still sells cars. Bosch, historically the largest automotive supplier on the planet, is facing an estimated €2.5 billion annual shortfall in its core mobility division and is cutting 22,000 jobs in total to survive. 13,000 newly announced on top of 9,000 already in motion, concentrated at historic sites like Feuerbach and Weiblingen that have supplied German industry for generations. The detail that matters here: Bosch isn't simply removing roles and leaving the work undone. It's actively replacing administrative, supply chain, and manufacturing oversight functions with artificial intelligence, which is the detail that tells you that these cuts aren't a cyclical dip waiting to reverse once demand picks up. They're a permanent deletion of human roles from the German engineering workforce, by design rather than necessity. Bosch has even suspended the 35-hour working week, one of the hard-won pillars of the German industrial labor settlement, for hundreds of staff, moving them onto reduced hours and reduced pay by force rather than negotiation. ZF Friedrichshafen's version of the same crisis comes from a different direction entirely: self-inflicted financial overreach rather than external pressure alone. ZF borrowed heavily through the 2010s to acquire the American suppliers TRW Automotive for roughly €11.4 billion and WABCO for a further €6.4 billion, saddling itself with €10.46 billion in net debt that now costs over €600 million a year just in interest, before a single job is protected or a single new component is engineered. As a specialist in complex mechanical transmissions, ZF is acutely exposed to the mechanical simplicity of an EV drivetrain, which needs no multi-speed gearbox at all, and it's now cutting 7,600 jobs from its electrified powertrain division alone, out of 11,000 to 14,000 planned across Germany by 2028, triggering street protests and coordinated strikes through IG Metall. ZF's own first half 2026 results actually showed adjusted profit rising to €964 million, a 5% margin, which sounds like recovery until CEO Matthias Miedrich's own explanation for it: cost discipline, which is corporate language for the exact layoffs and site closures described here. Profitability achieved by amputating the workforce isn't growth, it's managed decline that happens to look healthy on a single quarter's balance sheet. The distress runs all the way up to the deal-making level too. Mergers and acquisitions inside German automotive jumped 92% in the first half of 2026 alone compared to the same period a year earlier. Not because the sector is thriving, but because OEMs and suppliers alike are frantically selling off anything they don't strictly need to fund the EV transition they're all simultaneously behind on. Continental is unwinding itself structurally rather than simply cutting staff, spinning off its Vitesco and Aumovio divisions and preparing to sell its ContiTech rubber and plastics arms entirely, while still cutting over 10,000 roles globally in the process, including 1,600 inside Germany itself. Schaeffler is cutting 4,700 jobs across Europe after its operating profits halved, and 2,800 of those cuts land inside Germany itself. But the detail that should land hardest with a British viewer is what's happening at home. Schaeffler has confirmed the permanent closure of its Sheffield clutch manufacturing plant, offshoring the work entirely to Szombathely in Hungary and Hosur in India, citing global overcapacity from the shift to automatics and EVs. That's not an abstract German story anymore. That's a British factory closing because of a crisis in Wolfsburg's boardroom. And it's happening right now, not in some hypothetical future scenario. Beneath even these giants sits the real engine of the German economy, the Mittelstand. Thousands of smaller Tier 3 and Tier 4 firms making the highly specialized parts nobody else in the world bothers to manufacture at that scale of precision. When a Tier 1 supplier delays a single order to protect its own cash flow, a Tier 3 firm downstream can face genuine insolvency within weeks rather than months, because these businesses are running on thin margins and long payment terms with no real reserve to absorb a shock. Industry analysts are already predicting a full wave of bankruptcies through the back half of 2026, driven by expensive combustion-specific machinery that simply cannot be repurposed for anything electric. Stranded assets sitting on a factory floor that were fully operational and fully paid for right up until the market underneath them disappeared. Here's where this connects to something you can actually check for yourself, on your own driveway right now rather than in a spreadsheet you'll never see or a boardroom you'll never sit in. The financial collapse didn't come out of nowhere. It landed on top of a mechanical reliability record that had already been quietly failing UK owners for years, and the two stories explain each other rather than sitting side by side as coincidence. Verified data from the Warranty Direct Reliability Index and independent UK workshop networks names 3 failures that define what German engineering actually delivers on the road today, rather than what the badge still promises in the showroom. The Volkswagen and Audi DSG DQ200 dry dual clutch gearbox develops micro fractures in its mechatronic unit housing from ordinary thermal cycling, typically failing between 37 and 62,000 miles, well inside the ownership window of a first or second owner, not some ancient high-mileage banger, and costs UK owners £899 at an independent specialist or over £3,400 at a main dealer. BMW's N47 and B47 diesel engines carry their timing chain at the rear of the block against the firewall, an unusual and expensive design choice, which means a stretched or snapped chain, a common failure between 62,000 and 93,000 miles, requires a full gearbox removal or an engine lift to fix rather than a straightforward front of the engine job, running £2,500 to £4,200. Mercedes-Benz's OM654 diesel, fitted across current C-Class and E-Class models right now, suffers rocker arm needle bearing collapses that can destroy the entire engine outright with no warning beyond a knock, costing UK owners £8,000 to £15,000 to put right. And as of 2025, Germany's own KBA Motor Authority has issued no official recall for it, leaving owners to discover the fault and bill entirely on their own. Electric power hasn't fixed the underlying pattern either, which should worry everyone assuming the EV transition simply solves German reliability at a stroke. The 2026 TÜV report, Germany's own equivalent of the MOT, found the Volkswagen ID.4 and ID.5 running a 6.1% defect rate for premature suspension and axle wear at their very first inspection, the 2 to 3 year mark, caused directly by battery weight the chassis wasn't sufficiently reinforced to handle. A century spent mastering combustion engineering doesn't automatically transfer to battery chemistry and software, and the reliability data sitting on UK roads right now is exactly where that gap shows up first, long before it ever reaches a shareholder report. None of this is happening in isolation either. Germany's automotive industry is caught in 3 separate external pressures landing at exactly the same time, and any one of them alone would already be a serious problem for a company to absorb. The most immediate is China. Non-Chinese carmakers held 57% of the entire Chinese market in 2020. By 2025, that had collapsed to just 32%, and Volkswagen, which spent years as China's best-selling brand outright, was displaced first by BYD in 2024 and slipped further to 3rd place by 2025. Chinese manufacturers achieved that dominance through total vertical integration, owning everything from the raw mineral supply chain to the software stack running the car itself, leaving German imports structurally uncompetitive on price and on the technology buyers actually want right now, not just uncompetitive on cost alone. Regulation is squeezing from a second direction entirely, and this one applies right here at home. The UK's own zero-emission vehicle mandate requires 22% of a manufacturer's new car sales to be zero-emission this year, rising to 80% by 2030, with a £15,000 fine attached to every non-compliant combustion car sold above the quota, forcing German brands to discount EVs heavily in the one market segment where their margins were already thinnest, purely to dodge a regulatory penalty rather than to meet genuine demand. And the third pressure came from Washington rather than Brussels or Beijing. US tariffs have cost the industry an estimated $35.4 billion since 2025, with BMW alone reporting a 1.25 percentage point hit to its profit margin purely from absorbing tariff costs, and Volkswagen taking an estimated €4 billion hit in 2025 alone. A new EU-US trade deal from 1st of July 2026 capped the rate at 15% going forward, which counts as relief only in the narrow sense that a smaller permanent wound is better than an open one that never stops bleeding out. Economic historians keep reaching for the same comparison, and it's worth taking seriously rather than dismissing as broadcast hyperbole. The collapse of the Ruhr Valley's coal and steel industry through the 1970s and 80s, which reshaped an entire region of Germany within a generation. But the comparison actually understates how much worse this version is likely to run. The Ruhr's decline was managed by the state over decades, cushioned by subsidies, bridging loans, and early retirement schemes negotiated directly with the European coal and steel community, giving whole towns time to adjust rather than collapsing overnight. The modern German state has no equivalent room to maneuver this time around. EU state aid law bars the kind of protectionist bailout that once softened the Ruhr's fall, and Germany's own constitutionally enshrined debt brake strictly limits how much the government can borrow to try regardless of the political will to do so. There is no fund large enough, and no legal mechanism currently available, to subsidize an industry that's structurally failing to build the cars the global market actually wants to buy at the price it's currently charging. The 3.8 million workers IG Metall represents are fighting a genuine serious battle, and over 120,000 of them have already taken part in warning strikes at VW sites alone this year. But no strike forces a Chinese buyer to choose a German EV over a BYD, and no negotiation lowers the price of German industrial energy back to where it sat a decade ago. The industry's own trade body isn't hiding any of this either, which is unusual for an association whose entire job is normally to project confidence. The VDA, the German Association of the Automotive Industry, has issued open warnings about the terminal loss of German competitiveness, pointing directly at crippling domestic bureaucracy, extortionate energy costs, and a domestic supply chain that simply cannot compete with a Chinese manufacturing ecosystem built on state subsidy from the ground up. Germany's EV sales actually surged 78% in June 2026 alone, which sounds like genuine recovery until you look closely at who actually captured that growth. Almost all of it went to Tesla, BYD, and other imported Chinese brands, while domestic EV sales from Germany's own manufacturers actively slipped in the same month. The German auto industry isn't just losing market share abroad, it's losing the EV race inside its own domestic market, in the market that invented the modern car in the first place. For a UK owner, the consequence isn't abstract or distant, it's sitting on your own drive right now, whether or not you've noticed it yet. SMMT data from June 2026 already shows the shift in real numbers. Mercedes-Benz holds 3.82% of the UK market, while MG, now under Chinese ownership, has overtaken it at 4.88%, a genuine reversal that would have sounded absurd a decade ago. As Tier 3 and Tier 4 German suppliers keep falling under exactly the cost pressure described above, the parts pipeline for the millions of German combustion cars already on British roads is going to tighten, not loosen, over the next few years. Expect independent garages sourcing scarcer components at higher prices as smaller suppliers disappear from the ecosystem entirely. And inspect insurers writing off older, otherwise perfectly serviceable Golfs, 3 Series and C-Classes more readily than they would today, simply because a replacement part costs more to import than the car itself is worth on paper by that point. None of this means German engineering is a myth that was never true, and it would be lazy to pretend 3 decades of genuine mechanical excellence simply didn't happen. It means the premium you've been paying for that badge for 30 years was built on a mechanical reputation the industry itself has already started spending down years before the money ran out. One recalled but never officially recalled engine at a time, and the financial collapse just made the bill impossible to ignore any longer. A company doesn't cut 170,000 jobs across an entire ecosystem because things are going well under the surface. Does that change how you'd value a used German car sitting in front of you today versus the same badge 5 years ago? Or has the badge already lost its hold on you regardless of what the balance sheet says this year? Tell me in the comments, because that's usually where the next one of these starts.